Welcome to the regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. Today is going to be a somewhat lengthy day. We're going to begin with our regular meeting where we vote and make a difference in the lives and longevity of our fine county, Forsyth County. First, we will begin with our regular meeting, and then we will move on to the briefing session, which will take place a few minutes after the regular meeting. We're all in our places with sunshiny faces. We're all pretty happy. We just got back from the National Association of Counties meeting in Denver, Colorado, and I must say it was most successful. It was fruitful for all of the counties, and there are 3,069 counties in the United States, and 100 of those happen to be in North Carolina, and we're just delighted to be here with you. I will point out that Commissioner Kaplan, who is to my immediate left and your right, seems to be in good spirits. He was a player in the North Carolina Senate when he was in the General Assembly. He was also captain of a little tiny boat that floated down the Mekong River near Saigon in Southeast Asia, and he's happily ready to do his thing here. Richard Linville took a break from his tractor. He's been working on his tobacco crop, and he's happy that we're into this month instead of June or May. And if I look down and look around, we just have a lot of folks who can't wait to get started on this. We'll point out that Don Martin, who at one time was superintendent of the Winston-Salem-Forsyth County Sewer System and is a Methodist, and so am I, we have a very fine minister from the Methodist faith, and he will identify the minister and the church as we start with an invocation. But now I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Don Martin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all those biographies as we get going. Welcome to everyone to the August 4th, 2022 meeting, and we are going to begin our meeting today with an invocation from Reverend Lonnie Pittman. And I'm really pleased. He's from Mount Tabor United Methodist Church. He is my minister. He's been here 1 year, and I'm really pleased he's here today because I actually mentioned something to him. We had lunch, I guess, 2 weeks ago, and I said, you know, you ought to get on our list to volunteer. And not only did he turn around and do it immediately, he is here today. So it's a real pleasure to introduce Pastor Lonnie Pittman, and we're going to follow that with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Kaplan. And if you'll please stand if you're able.
Let us pray. O Lord, we gather today as a community united as one. Lord, today we ask for your blessings upon this meeting. Most importantly, we ask for your blessings upon each of these commissioners. We thank you for their wisdom. We thank you for their sacrificial leadership. And we thank you for their willingness to seek what is best for our county and all the individuals who make up this place we call home. Lord, we are truly grateful. No, Lord, this is indeed a great home. We are blessed to live in such a scenic state and scenic county. We are blessed to live in such an historic region of our country. Lord, let us honor those who have come before us by seeking both the right and the good answers above all else. Let us continue to strive toward collegiality and common purpose. In what feels like such a divisive world, let us be a light where opinions and passions are shared, but decency and love are also displayed in our agreements and our disagreements. Once again, O Lord, I thank you for these servants and for all of those gathered here today who care about our community. You have charged them and all of us with great responsibilities to maintain and even flourish in your world. We embrace these responsibilities with a sense of purpose and humility. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to lead and to work together. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Pittman. Thank you. Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, and I will mention we have a public hearing today, which is different than the public session that occurs every week. I'd like to encourage anyone who's watching on television or computer to please call 336-422-1200, and you will be placed on hold until the public session begins. That number again is 336-422-1200. And members of the audience who wish to participate again in the public session, we are going to have a public hearing where you have an opportunity just to come up. But if you want to participate in the public session afterwards, please fill out a speaker card and return it to our clerk to my right, Mrs. Ashley Sloop. And we will begin today with a COVID update, which we've had now for 2.5 years from our Public Health Director, Joshua Swift. Thank you for being here, Joshua.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. If you give me one moment. Yes, please. I need to share it. Just right, thank you. So just a brief update for August the 4th. Over the last 14 days, you can see we've had an increase in cases of 33%. Our deaths have decreased 25% during that time. Our hospitalizations are now at 34 for South County residents who are currently hospitalized. It was 39 last week. Now it was in the 20s a few months ago. So it had seen an increase and now seems to be leveling off. We are seeing increases across North Carolina and across the nation of cases of COVID, and hospitalizations across the state are up 23%, but across the U.S. it's only 3% increase in hospitalizations related to COVID. So this slide shows a look at the cases since the beginning of the pandemic. You can see where we are, and you can see where we've had an uptick. Over the last few months, we've been in the 600, 700, 800 cases per week that are lab confirmed cases. Over the last 2 weeks, actually this past week, we broke 1,000 cases for a week. This is a better way to just zoom in and show the last almost 6 months. Back in February, we were coming off of the Omicron surge. A few weeks prior, in mid-January, we had 8,000 cases in a week. We went down, had a dip in March, then it started to slowly increase. And then it's sort of stayed at this level point, almost 1,000, around 800 to 1,000 over the last few months. Percent positivity, this is a snapshot, or not a snapshot, this is just showing a broad spectrum across the whole pandemic where we've been. Again, these are all the cases, and the percent positivity is based on lab confirmed cases. So really, what we're telling the public, what you can do, one, make sure you have an at-home test kit. That's the ideal situation to have at-home test kits. Have that tool in your toolbox at home so when you get sick, you can be tested. Those are available at the libraries. Thankful for that. They're available at the health department. They're available at the gas station. You can buy it yourself, but it's free at the libraries and through the health department. Get a booster if you're over 50. So if you're over 50, that's recommended that you get a booster. If you're immune compromised, that's also recommended that you probably get a booster, especially if you haven't had one since 2021. And then, this is your choice, but wear a mask indoors for added protection if you decide to. So that's something I tell people to make that decision on their own. But you can see all three of these are things that you can do yourself to take responsibility. Next, and this is just one slide, I believe, maybe two, on monkeypox. Right now we have 6,600 cases in the U.S., 72 cases in North Carolina, no cases in Forsyth right now. Vaccine is available 5 days a week at the Public Health Department. They need to call to make an appointment. It's for people that are eligible. We were allocated 820 doses. We got 360 today. We got 460 last week, the week before last. We've distributed 100 to Atrium and 100 to Novant, 20 to other health departments. And we're seeing individuals come in and making appointments. We're also working with clinics at North Star LGBTQ Center. We had that Tuesday, July 26th, this past Tuesday, and we're going to be going every Tuesday while supply and demand lasts. So that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Joshua, I do have a question, if I may, Vice Chairman. Could you go back to the slide? So I'm just confirming with the monkeypox vaccination, is that something that's given voluntarily, or do they have to have the actual infection to get the vaccination? I guess I'm unclear with that.
No, they don't have to have the infection. Actually, if they have the infection, it's really too late. It's for individuals that meet the criteria, which have been laid out, and they change quite regularly. This is from the CDC and the Division of Public Health, which includes, let me list so I don't misspeak, Ms. McDaniel.
That's okay, no worries.
I'll just pull out.
Well, just one quick, I'm sorry.
So it is expanded the vaccination criteria for people who have been in close contact, physical contact with someone diagnosed with monkeypox in the last 14 days, or men who have sex with men or transgender individuals who report in the last 90 days, and it goes into multiple partners diagnosed with an STI or on HIV pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Fair enough.
I've had 2 shots plus a booster shot, and the booster shot took place about 2 months ago. Do I need to be concerned about getting another booster shot?
Well, if the booster, what we're trying to promote, Chairman Plyler, thank you for that question, is the booster for individuals who have who are eligible. You need to have been at least 4 months since your last booster. And we do know that coming in October, we don't have any details, but we're hearing that there will be another booster that will be more targeted to the variants that are circulating now. And just to let people know, that's what normally happens every year with the flu vaccine. It's targeted to the flu variants that they're seeing. The Northern Hemisphere prepared by what's going on in the Southern Hemisphere.
It would help, though, to get that in October, is that correct?
Yes, that's when it looks like October, November that will be. Now, that's for your case. I would encourage individuals just to Google NC COVID booster, and it's on our Facebook page as well. There is a link that you can go to that's anonymous you can just put in your age, what vaccines you've had, when you had them, and it'll tell you if you're eligible for a booster.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Joshua?
Josh, would you repeat that? nccovidbooster.com, was that it?
Well, if you just Google NC COVID booster, and we have that available on our Facebook page, and I'll share it with Ashley as well, and it's a link. And I was just talking with an individual we're working with to push media messaging about trying to make sure, because there is a lot of confusion, like you said, Chairman Plyler, about am I eligible for a booster? Should I get a booster? I mean, like I said, right now, the big thing is if you're over 50, if you're 50 and over, and you haven't had a booster this year, it's probably a good idea to get one, and you could get it now and still be eligible in the fall when that other booster becomes available.
And the process is very private. It's not public information.
No, sir. It's just, you don't have to put in your name or email or anything. It's just you just put in, hey, what did you have first? When did you, how long has it been since you've had a booster? And it'll say if you're eligible.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes.
Other questions? As always, thank you for being here. Appreciate all the hard work you and your staff do.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the staff. Thank you for the staff, the hard work. Thanks.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda today is a public hearing on the zoning request of R.S. Parker Development, LLC from YR AG and RS30 to YRS, RS15S, and RM5S, apologize. And the first speaker today is actually going to be Mr. Chris Murphy, who is the Director of Planning and Development Services, and he is going to review it. So, Chris, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, member of the County Commissioners. This is a rezoning request, F-1617 of CM Family Limited Partnership, Cecil Hash and Margaret Armfield, to rezone approximately 319 acres on the west side of Idols Road, south of Mallard Trail, from YRAG and RS30 to YRS, RS15S, and RM5S. This is the subject property labeled F1617 on the border of growth management areas 4 and 5. They're south of Tanglewood Park. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow on the zoning map. Again, you'll see the different zoning districts. The IP directly to the north on the map is Tanglewood Park. The property has frontage on Idols Road across from the GI zone property that the county owns along Idols Road. This is the subject property outlined in yellow on the countywide aerial photography. You see the golf course at Tanglewood located to the north. You see the majority of this property is undeveloped, agricultural pasture land, perhaps some in cultivation, but for the most part it's undeveloped. Again, 319 acres there on the south side of Tanglewood and the west side of Idols Road. Here is just an image of the subject property. This is looking north on Idols Road. The subject property would be to the left. And this is just looking at the Tanglewood Golf Course along that northern border of the subject property, looking at the golf course. This is the site plan. You'll notice that it is there is a lot of open space on this project. The overall acreage is 319 acres for 537 units with a density of 1.68 units per acre, I believe. You'll notice concentrated development in the central portion of the site. Some concentrated development through that central spine going back towards the east, and you'll notice the concentrated development there along Idols Road with a mix of single-family and townhomes in that area. The balance of the site, the area where it narrows down, that spine area and the area to the west, those are all single-family lots. And the property at the furthest west, that adjoins the Yadkin River, is all proposed to be open space, with open space and passive open space and active open space interspersed throughout the entire development. This is just taking a closer look at the northern area where the townhomes are proposed to be located there along the exit of Tanglewood Park out to Idols Road, the back exit, I should say. This is kind of looking at that central site where you transition from the townhome area to the single-family homes, working your way to the west with the golf course located to the north of this image. And this is that western section where you have, again, it opens back up a little bit, and you have some more single-family homes in that area, along with open space. And what's not shown on this plan, which was shown on the overall plan, is the open space area along the Yadkin River further to the west. And that is included in the rezoning request before you. Some site plan enhancements that I will go over since the original proposal. During the June and July briefings on this item, the commissioners expressed some concerns about the relationship between this development and Tanglewood Park. The item was continued so that the petitioner could address those concerns. The developer had some discussions with county management along with parks staff and planning staff to consider options to revise the site plan to include a larger buffer and other treatments between Tanglewood and the subject property. With that, there were a couple of potential added conditions which have been included with the permit and with the written consent conditions that are in the materials in your packet. And those added conditions are security fencing, buffering, and spacing between the subject property and the county-owned Tanglewood Park shall be in substantial conformity with the attached exhibits entitled 220729 Perimeter Treatment, Overall Areas A, B, and C, and 2022-0801 Perimeter Cross Sections, which show the landscaping cross sections in those perimeter treatments. The second condition that was added to the written consent to conditions and the permit based on those conversations with the county management and parks and planning staff is the petitioner recognizes that the subject property is located next to a public park that hosts special events that can include significant traffic, event and vehicle noise, and event lighting, and further recognizes that there are nuisances associated with the adjacent golf courses, including potential property damage and hazards from errant golf shots. As such, the current and future owners of real property, both development lots and common open spaces and amenities, acknowledge the same and will make allowances for such without demanding future redress from Forsyth County. That's just kind of putting on notice that, there could be some golf balls that come from the county-owned Tanglewood Park onto their property, and that they recognize and understand that. These are those buffering and fencing site plan enhancements, and this is the overall of that. I'm going to quickly jump to this area there along the northern boundary with Tanglewood Park. It shows where the security fencing and buffering will be and what type of fencing that will be. It also shows the areas that will have type 3 buffer. And then it also shows the area where there is an existing force main where that landscape buffering can't be installed. And that's where you transition to this image where there will be a transition from the security fencing to a 6-foot tall brick wall that will line the boundary between the golf course and the subject property. And again, it transitions in a couple of places, and it has security fencing that will cross that easement, but will not be a brick wall. It would just be the security fencing so that we don't have gaps in that, so folks could not wander onto the golf course. Again, that security fencing continuing, and then as you get to the backs of the townhomes, where the townhomes back up to the exit road from the Festival of Lights, they have the same security fencing, but they are proposing a 50-foot type 3 buffer planted at the 20-foot rate, and that buffer will be planted up close to the top of that slope. So as that vegetation grows, it should shield lighting and noise from the Festival of Lights and the traffic exiting the Festival of Lights from those townhomes. And then the final thing that's shown on that is that 100-foot type 3 thoroughfare PRD buffer, which is required by the ordinance. And they have specified how that will be planted, and I will show that in these cross sections. Well, first of all, that's just an example. The security fence will be similar to that fence in the top left-hand image, 6-foot tall woven wire fence. It won't have the barbed wire on top, but this is the only example we could find of kind of what we were talking about as far as security fencing. The image to the right there is what is proposed as the brick wall, that type of design. The color of the brick may change, but that's the type of wall that's imagined in that area adjacent to the force main where the landscaping cannot be installed. This is the overall cross section. The A, B, C, and D are the images that I will go to next, and that just kind of shows what the landscaping and buffering treatment will be. This is section A there along that northern property line where they can put the buffer in, have the security fence. That just kind of shows what that will look like in that area. And as you kind of transition, there'll be an area where you have a 40-foot type 3 buffer, kind of a setback from the individual lots that kind of meet that 75-foot area where hopefully homes won't get hit by errant golf balls. And then the beginning of the single-family lots, again, this is there also along that northern boundary. Section C is, let me go back one. This shows, that shows the brick wall along with the landscape plantings. This section is where it shows the type 3 buffer yard on the backside of those townhomes with the planting planted up the slope. Again, 20-foot planting requirements in that 55-foot buffer yard, but those plantings will be located at the top of that slope. And you see where the exit road is there for Tanglewood at the bottom of that image. And this is the landscaping that's proposed along that 100-foot PRD thoroughfare buffer yard there adjacent to Idols Road, where you have some townhomes and single-family homes that potentially back up to Idols Road. There will be significant landscaping there to kind of soften that edge, so you won't be looking at the backyards of those homes that are proposed in that area. I'm going to provide a summary. With access to public sewer, Legacy recommends that GMA 4 areas, which are known as future growth areas, be treated as GMA 3 suburban neighborhood and are thus allowed to utilize GMA 3 recommended densities of 0 to 8 units per acre. I will note, and I believe I talked about this in one of my first briefings back in June, that there is no adopted small area plan that the commissioners have looked at and considered. I believe there is an area plan for the village of Clemens, but that has not been vetted by this board, and thus we have no land use specific recommendations for these parcels. As such, we don't have an area plan to lean on. The request will increase the variety of housing types in the area, which is a stated goal of Legacy. A large percentage of the site, approximately a little over 40%, is left undisturbed and or is proposed as open space that won't be developed. There could be some grading within it, but there won't be homes, lots, or other improvements. The developer has worked to provide an enhanced transition and security measures along the perimeter of the site with Tanglewood Park. As far as the recommendation, this item was heard by the Planning Board at their May 12th, 2022 public hearing. There were numerous speakers in opposition, many of which I think you'll probably hear from today. The concerns centered around incompatible density, traffic concerns, stormwater concerns, and cut-through and traffic and congestion concerns along Middlebrook Drive and some of the other intersections further upstream. After hearing these concerns, Planning Board did vote 6-3 to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners. And I can say that the site plan does meet UDO requirements. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I believe that Mike Anderson also is going to come up and speak, but I do want to answer any questions that the commissioners have at this point before I turn it over to Mike.
I have one. Could you speak to the issue of sort of the long-term maintenance and care of both the security fence and the brick wall?
Just with any other conditions of approval and improvements that are shown on site plans approved by this board, long-term maintenance is a responsibility of, in the short term, the developer, and the long term, the homeowners association. Obviously, there are exceptions to that. You know, the streets themselves will be public streets and will be turned over eventually to NCDOT. NCDOT would be responsible for the maintenance of the streets, but as far as walls, fences, landscaping, those type of things would be the responsibility in the short term of the developer, long term, the homeowners association.
Good. Thank you.
All right, with that, I think Mike's going to come up.
Okay, great. Hey, Mike. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just from the staff perspective, Chris has done a really good job of presenting everything that was pretty well covered. We have met several times with the developer and talked about the concerns from the park's perspective of the impact of both the park on the development and development on the park. And the developer's done a good job of addressing a lot of those concerns with the security fencing around the property. And has made some attempts with the buffer to do some of the things that we requested that they look at. The only thing that I would add, as Chris also mentioned, is the biggest probably concern that we would have would be the Festival of Lights impact on that back road. Even though there is a buffer there and there's security fencing, there's a lot of light spillover. And for those couple months out of the year, we feel like those residents will be impacted along that back road. And in addition to that, we'll also, as you heard in the past of our traffic issues with Festival Lights, we've done a pretty heartily job of trying to address those over the years. We'll be dumping a lot of traffic out that back exit because that's where all the traffic does exit. So we can envision, there being some traffic issues with even the residents in this new development being able to get in and out during Festival Lights, which we do station traffic staff there, but there's just a lot of traffic going out. So those are really from the park perspective. addressed a lot of the concerns that we have as much as can be addressed, so I think. So,
What's the total cost of the project? Have any ideas?
don't know the
Ballpark?
Mr. Chairman, I believe you can ask the petitioner that whenever they come up and speak next.
All right.
Mike, could I ask you one question? I did receive a letter, an email, that actually talked about, they were talking about particularly the area, the exit area where in the Festival Lights, that's kind of that tunnel of lights that you drive through. And the comment was made that basically they had a little fear. I don't think the email writer did not know about the 50 feet that's bigger than the 30 feet I think it was originally proposed. And maybe they know about the elevation does change. I believe that was picture C on the item we just looked at. But there was some concern about any kind of street lights or patio lights or things that's kind of the back that the light pollution that goes down to where the sort of the exit tunnel, that's kind of the finale of the Festival of Lights, whether that would be a light pollution piece was part of it. I'm just kind of curious of your thoughts about that as regards the.
Yeah, I could see some impact both ways. Both if you had floodlights on houses kind of pointing toward displays, the same thing on displays pointing. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but displays, there are several arches there and they're 24 feet high. And so they do have considerable spillover from a light standpoint. In addition to that, the Isles Road area, if you've been out in that section during the nighttime, is very dark. And so we, a number of years, it actually went to the extent of placing, you may have seen construction lighting with big dome lights to kind of light up that on the highway there, so as people pulling out could see. And in addition to that, we've started on the busiest nights putting sheriff's deputies there to help people get in and out. But there's a lot of light at that back exit now from our standpoint, because we've got two bright construction lights that light up that area. So it really shines in that, because there's no street lights on that back, to my knowledge, on that back section of the road, and it really is dark through there. So we've done some of that just from a security standpoint. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. Or
No, that helps, at least in terms of perspective. Thank you.
Mike, I had one question, please. Thank you very much. I got a couple of emails as well. One of them was concerned about losing trees on their property because they felt that the roots of their trees would extend into the area where the development would take place, and that area would be excavated, and over time they would lose their trees. Now, you know far more about trees than I do. So could you just comment on that concern of one of the citizens, please?
Well, anytime you do any grading and you take out trees where there's a continuous stand of trees that are supporting each other, you run that risk. I think, and that would be more of a Chris question to look back at the development, but I don't think they're doing a whole lot of clearing along the property line. A good portion of the property line along the golf course, there's not a lot of trees in a way. Most of the trees would be down toward where they have a pond area on their development. And I think it'd be more of a Chris's perspective on how much they're taking out. I haven't seen that. But from the park's perspective, I don't see a big problem with that from our trees. So.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chris? Or good, go ahead.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Yeah, as far as along with the Tanglewood property itself, I don't believe there's a lot of area for tree removal. Most of those trees are being retained. I believe the issue, if it's the same email that I saw, there's an area along, I believe, Peggy Lane where there's some grading that comes fairly close to that southern property line where those properties with Peggy Lane come there. There's some area right there where I think there's some grading where there potentially could be some damage to the root zone of the trees on the neighboring property. There's not anything in the ordinance that prohibits that and that can address that. There are some things. There's a difference in the UDO in the city and the county as far as tree preservation and those kind of things. And there are some restrictions in the city where you can't have disturbance within an area that's going to impact trees on someone else's property. That's not the standard in the county because the county has not adopted the tree ordinance. But again, I believe that is something that perhaps could be discussed with the site plan preparer and see if there's a way to pull that back in that little bit of area if that's a concern of the citizen.
Yeah, and in fact, Chris, I jotted down the streets, in fact, the Peggy Drive, that particular email, but also Hawk Haven and also it was Riverbrook Trail. And do those, because that part I'm not as familiar with where they are, but does that ring any kind of bells with you?
Again, I saw the email last night that was specifically referring to Peggy, and I did look at the plan on that, and I did see that there is an area where they're doing some grading, and they're going to actually go in and install a buffer in that area and not retain any existing vegetation. I did not look at the other areas, but again, that might be something that the site plan preparer could address as part of their, whenever they do their presentation, if you want to ask them those questions, if there's a way to address those couple of areas.
That's good. Other questions for Chris? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, and up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. So we'll begin with those that would speak in favor of the petition. And we actually, if you come up, I'm going to limit you. You have a sort of a 3-minute time. Come on, you can come forward, and we'll try to keep close to 3 minutes and go through that. And I think at the end of the public hearing, if there are additional questions of developers or any of the concerns, we'll wait till the end to do that. But we'll keep the flow of the hearing and our timeline. So if you give us your name and address to begin, please, and we're ready to go.
All right, thank you. My name is Stephen Owen with Stemmel Associates. Address is 601 North Trade Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 27101. Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm going to kind of go through and just kind of talk about the site plan. Chris did a wonderful job of kind of talking about the details of it, so I'm going to kind of skim through rather quickly as we go through it. But I do want to just kind of point out a couple items. As he had mentioned, there is about 319 acres on this site. It will be proposed for a planned residential development with a mixed use of single-family homes and townhomes. 537 total units, which he had mentioned previously. Overall, it results in a density of 1.68 dwelling units per acre. That is an overall low-density development, and that does conform with the Yadkin River watershed requirements as well. There's 2 points of access on the site. The main primary access is on Idols Road, right here. I don't know if you can see the pointer when I point, but right here would be the main primary access. It would be a landscape median access, and would be right there. There's a secondary access on Fox Park Drive that would also serve as the secondary required emergency safety access. As mentioned previously, as being part of a planned residential development, in exchange for some flexibility with the lot size and lot dimensional requirements, additional open space and buffer yards are provided. And this plan does provide those requirements and then actually goes above and beyond, as you'll see. There's a 30-foot perimeter buffer all the way around. We do make every attempt. The plan does attempt to try and preserve as much of the existing vegetation as possible. I know that was a concern that was made. There are some areas where I think that was mentioned, and kind of if you look in that central area, it's kind of the pinch point of the site, and there is some topography challenges in that area as well. And that is where some areas where there will be some more intensive grading that may end up being closer to those boundaries. But even with those areas, every attempt has been made to try and minimize those. And we can look at that further as it goes into engineering. Additionally, there's the 100-foot PRD buffer along Idols Road that will actually help set back and still help preserve some of that natural feel. Overall, 125 acres of passive open space are provided, and about 3 acres, a little over 3 acres of active open space. And those active open space areas will be amenitized areas, highly amenitized areas such as dog parks, seating areas, actually some pickleball courts, different types of activities. Those are interspersed throughout. Those are the darker green areas throughout the park. And then again, just kind of looking at this would be the first initial phase where the townhome area is coming in. The grand entrance there, the primary entrance with a grand entrance into a clubhouse area and amenity area. The existing pond and the natural area there will remain. So the entrance, in addition with the 100-foot thoroughfare buffer there, will help keep that natural enhancement as you're driving along Idles Road. Again, this was the pinch point area in here, as mentioned before. It gets kind of tight in this area, and there is some topography challenges. There will be the opaque brick wall in this area to help shield up against the Tanglewood side.
If you could kind of wrap up in about a minute, that'd be great.
Okay, yep. Let me jump through all these since he's gone. I do want to just point out real quickly, development area plan. As mentioned, about 162 acres, 51% of this is remaining undisturbed. So only half of this site is actually being developed. The remaining half is actually remaining as undisturbed. And a lot of that is to protect those sensitive areas, the floodplains, stream buffers, ponds, and some existing vegetation and trees. No ponds impacts, wetlands, or floodplain impacts are proposed as part of this. And then kind of going through, I just want to kind of point out again the additional volunteer perimeter treatments that the developer has agreed to go with regarding the security fence and a brick wall in areas, and then also expanded buffer widths and expanded planting densities, increased evergreens to help screen and protect. And then we did have a neighborhood outreach meeting. We had about 77 invites that were sent out. We had about 30 neighbors that came and attended that as part of that drop-in session. And overall, just kind of, again, thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Just want to kind of point out for your consideration, there's 5 key reasons we like your considered approval. The project provides a variety of housing types through a comprehensive design community. The availability of public utilities in the area now provides more opportunities for development. The plan is sensitive to the environmental factors and maintains approximately half the site as undisturbed. The request is consistent with legacy when looked at as a comprehensive project, and staff and planning board have recommended approval. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thanks. We'll save our questions for the end.
Okay, that'd be great.
All
right.
We can digest all, and we can ask a
All
few
right,
questions.
sounds good. Thank you. At this time, I'll introduce Greg Garrett. He is with the development team, and he can speak. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Greg Garrett, and I'm with R.S. Parker Development Company. Our address is P.O. Box 5967, and that's in High Point 27262. I also would like to, because I think it is relevant, I personally live, as a crow flies, 1.5 miles from here. So the issues that have been brought up, I mean, I'm very familiar with this area. I know about the traffic patterns, the real traffic patterns, and I do think that's important. I personally have been developing communities in the Triad for over 25 years. The company that I represent, R.S. Parker Home, they're approaching 4 decades now. And so we've done communities all over the Triad. I specifically have been more concentrated here in Forsyth County, and I'm very proud of the projects that we've done in the past. And I consider this project to be a legacy project for me. 320 acres that, right next to Tanglewood, a park that you guys have done a tremendous job with. I mean, that is really a tremendous asset for the whole area. I mean, it's known about through the Southeast, the Festival of Lights, and I'm very proud of this area, and I'm very proud of this development that we've put together. There's been a lot of work that's been put into this project. We start off doing a market study and identifying what are the needs. Well, one of the needs that has been abundantly clear is we need housing for our aging population. So we have a vision that this community will be a age-targeted neighborhood, if not age restricted. The key difference between restricted and targeted is there is one developer that does age restricted very well. They're known throughout the country, and it's Del Webb. They have been looking at this property for a Del Webb community. No commitments at this point, but we believe what we have put in place is very enticing to them and meets most of their criteria, if not all. So even if they don't, we're very committed, because the market study that we started off with stated that there is a big need for folks that are wanting to, the new term is right size. They've raised their family in these big houses, and they're now ready to right size their home. And so what we have proposed on this project is 299 single-family homes. Most of those homes will be ranch product, one-level living. There will be some that will be 1.5 story. Even the townhouses are master downtown home plans. And so we have modeled this after a Del Webb community. Even if Del Webb does not choose this site, we believe that there are several other builders that would be very interested in capturing and meeting this market demand of homes that are right-sized. So part of that is, if that's your buyer, these type of buyers don't want to, they have a fairly low impact on the infrastructure of the community. They want to avoid being out on the roads when there's heavy commuting traffic. So that's real important to think about. And then also, there's not many kids. If you look at our amenity package, it is specifically geared towards this aging population. We're talking about several pickleball courts. We're talking about putting greens, walking trails. What we're really, at the end of the day, what we're doing different than what others maybe have not done is we're going to be selling lifestyle. We're selling a lifestyle at this development, and that's what is really going to separate us from the rest. I hear the beeper, so I'll try to speed things up. So there was a question asked, what is the total value of the project? And using conservative numbers, we're at $150 million. That would be your base, tax on this project, and then the revenue generated from that base tax valuation would be right at $1 million a year. So significant project for Forsyth County, and I do want to point out that we have followed due process. This project began being formulated a year ago. Lots of conversations have been had with the planning staff. We've had a neighborhood meeting. We've had a lot of discussion with Parks and Rec and with the county manager, and so we've really followed due process, and I think that's real important to note. I'm happy to give you more specifics about the homes if you'd like, but I know I'm exceeding the time. So 2 other real important points, and then I'll finish up. This is a low-impact development. When I went to Stemmel, by the way, which I think they are the best in the Southeast as far as land planners and engineers, I know you guys have used them on some of your projects, I said, we do not want to impact any streams or any wetlands. We're allowed to do that. But I told them we want to avoid and keep the natural areas natural, and that's what we've done. And I think that was a great feat when you're talking about 320 acres. That's a huge accomplishment, and so I'm very proud of the work that Stemmel has done with that. And then also, again, because I live out there, you guys have a jewel, and that jewel is Idols Road Extension. That road is not utilized, and if you are living in this area and you're going to get on 40 heading east, the way to go is Idols Road Extension to Stratford, 5 lanes all the way to that traffic light, and then you get on 40 and you go east. Now, west is a different story, but I think most of the traffic is headed in towards Winston, and that Idols Road is way underutilized, the Idols Road Extension, and I think that needs to be given some serious consideration. And then as far as Mallard Trail Festival lights, so we've got very intense plantings that we're doing. The elevation is already acting as a buffer because it's sitting up above the grade of Mallard Trail. And we're backing up to two-story townhouses that have a master on the down. So if you're envisioning lights coming through, that's not the case because of the two-story, not on the primary bedrooms, because those master bedrooms are on the main level. Okay. So in conclusion, it's my hope that you'll agree with your staff and your planning board that the subject property and rezoning is in keeping with the legacy plan and the other documents that guide development within our county. Thank you so much for your time.
The name Del Webb is legendary, especially in the southwestern United States, where I'm concerned. I've heard about him for years. What gives you a comfort level? And the reason I'm asking this question is because we have people in the commissioner's room who no doubt will say during the hearing sometime that traffic will increase. And when traffic increases, all kinds of problems increase with them. What gives you a comfort level in this particular project?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm right there in the area, and I can drive down Idols Road Extension and never see another car, and that's several miles long. If you go out to Idols Road, I mean, it's just as quiet of a road as it could be. Now, no doubt, you get on Middlebrook, get to Louisville Clemens Road, and things change drastically. But to me, there's some behavior changes that need to occur, and I believe that the buyers of our project, of our homes, are going to want to avoid these congested areas, and there's other ways to do that.
Good answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers that would like to speak in favor of the project?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I did want to introduce Bob Anderson. He is the property owner's representative. He had just a couple quick remarks. And then we also have our traffic engineer here today to answer any traffic questions you might have. Probably won't have any, but.
Thank you, Commissioner and Planning Board. My name is Bob Anderson. I am with Freeman Commercial Real Estate, a broker with them for over 25 years. And our address is 1255 Creekshire Way, Winston-Salem, 27103. It's very interesting. Cecil bought this property over 20 years ago, probably 25 years ago, back in the late 80s, as a farm. He has farmed this property ever since, and he's developed it into beautiful farmland, raising cattle, very nice cattle that everybody in the neighborhood out there likes. But as Cecil has grown and his family has no interest in continuing the farming of the land, Cecil is 82 years old. You wouldn't know it by him out there working on his tractor and doing hay every season. But he just came to me this has been about 3 years ago, in developing and positioning this property for sale. And our firm has been around for a long time, and this has been a specialty of mine in helping landowners sell land. But he just realized that in the best interest of his family, and transitioning his property and getting it in position to be sold. Over the years, the new sewer easement is there, and he goes, this land is better suited for something with those type of amenities, and Tanglewood deserves maybe a better neighbor than my cows on there, and broken fences and stuff. So he decided to sell the property. We went through a very serious and vetted a lot of developers that would have loved to have been on this property. And it took us over a year and a half. We were looking for someone like Greg Garrett, a local person that can do first-class developments. And we recommended and asked Greg that he would use Stimmel Associates because we knew of their good work. And so a good team was put together, and this took, as Greg has mentioned, years of planning, and they've been at it for a long time right now. But he's very comfortable with what's being done on his property. He loves that property, and he wants to take good care of it. He believes that Greg Garrett and Stimmel have created a beautiful plan that will be a good neighbor to Tanglewood and a project that the community will be very proud after this is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Others wishing to speak in favor? We have about 3 minutes left, so this will
Try to be a speed reader.
wrap us up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm Mike Rogers, Village of Clemens. I'm the mayor there. I live at 110 Stanwell Court in Clemens. I'm here on behalf of the Village Council. The Village of Clemens recommends that the Commissioners defer deciding on docket number F-1617, commonly known as Riverwalk Development. We recommend a deferral so that a comprehensive analysis and assessment of the development's traffic impact can be accomplished, and the insights gained from the analysis and assessment can be used to inform the Commission's decisions about how to proceed with this very consequential enterprise. The Village of Clemens' primary objective is to ensure that all relevant agencies know and account for the impact of traffic generated by 537 home subdivision. Let me be crystal clear. Clemens is not opposed to this development or development in this or other areas. We know that quality developments bring new customers to our businesses, new students to our schools, new neighbors, folks that will fill pews, athletes that will excel on the field and in the gym, scholars that will excel in the classroom, and much more. We also know that development and growth bring challenges that must be met for the growth to be positive. In this instance, I'm specifically talking about Clemens' constant #1 problem, traffic. We have a major concern about the ability and current programmed roadway infrastructure to handle the 4,590 daily trips the Riverwalk project is projected to generate. That number is from the developer's transportation impact study completed by the firm of Ramey Kemp Associates. We are particularly concerned that the transportation impact study presented to and considered by the planning board was inadequately scoped and thereby did not evaluate the development's traffic impact on critical intersections like Highway 158 and Louisville-Clemens Road, also known as Middlebrook, and Hamptons and 158. In fact, the only consequential intersection evaluated by the transportation impact study is Idols Road in Middlebrook. Given that, the Village of Clemens chartered Ramey Kemp, same firm that did the original study for the developer, to access Riverwalk's likely impact on 4 critical Clemens intersections, including Highway 158 in Middlebrook, Hampton Road and Highway 158, Kleinard Road and Highway 158, Hampton Road and Idols Road. It's important to note that this is more comprehensive consideration is exactly what the Forsyth County Unified Development Ordinances require. I quote, "The study area should include each intersection with a major thoroughfare highway, which can be considered as a logical travel path between the site and the major thoroughfare highway network. Furthermore," and I quote, "additional intersections that are rationally identified as being impacted by a development shall be included in the study area." Forsyth County UDO, Chapter 12.2, page 4. The Comprehensive Transportation Impact Study concludes that Riverwalk traffic will significantly and adversely impact key intersections that were not included in the original study. For example, the level of service will drop at critical intersections of Middlebrook and Highway 158 to unacceptable levels E and F. Similar drops in service levels will occur at other important intersections. On receiving the traffic impact analysis, the Village of Clemens commissioned, we had a second traffic engineer from another firm independently examine and assess its results. They confirmed the projected nature and magnitude of Riverwalk's traffic impact. Given this new information and insights, we are convinced it's essential that decision makers take time to allow a thorough analysis of projected traffic impact and to assess the potential for planned possible roadway projects to mitigate the level of service reductions. Thus, Clemens asked for a 60-day deferral by the Board of Commissioners to facilitate a comprehensive assessment of the full impact of Riverwalk's 537 homes. Naturally, Clemens is ready to help with the assessment in every way we can. Traffic congestion in Clemens hazards more than our community, as Clemens is an essential through point for commuters working in Winston-Salem and its immediate surroundings. Just one example, More than 7,000 workers commute to and from Clemens daily to staff critical businesses, industries, and governmental services throughout Winston-Salem. When Clemens is at 3 Point, we are an economic enabler. When Clemens becomes a choke point, it's an economic hazard. Thank you for your time.
Wow, good going, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, Mayor, I'd like to ask if you can stay till afterwards. We may have a few questions.
Yes,
We're going to listen to the next 15 minutes of those in opposition. There might be some questions if you can stay until the end.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, thank you. Now we're ready to move to those that would like to speak in opposition. And again, we have 15 minutes set aside for that part of the presentation. And those of you who'd like to come up, but please come on, and we'll have one at a time. Please identify yourself with your name and address. And we're aiming for as close to 3 minutes. I'll try to keep you on track on that, and we'll limit though to 15 minutes total. So.
Appreciate it. How's everybody doing today?
Very good, thank you.
Good. My name's Ryan Scott. I'm 7610 Peggy Drive, North Carolina, Clemens. So a lot was discussed here that has come to light and concerns, and we're real happy to see that steps were taken to increase buffer and protect Tanglewood Park, so that's great. One thing that we're concerned about is the watershed concerns because this property falls in the Yadkin River Idols Dam intake and is considered a Class 4 watershed. So that being said, the plans that were put forth or that I received after speaking at the planning board meeting, it says that the property shouldn't be increased over 24% curb and gutter, and also 2 dwellings per 40,000 square feet. So you look at the density, the overall density of this project, and they're claiming a low density of now what was 1.77 dwelling units per acre, but is now apparently 1.68. But if you actually narrow it down to the buildable property, which is about 193 acres, you look at those lot sizes of 7,650 square feet and 5,535 square feet. You break those down, you're looking at 5.9 units per acre and almost 8 units per acre. So I'm a mechanic, okay? I own a business in Clemens. I travel Clemens every single day, okay? So when it comes to things like this, I'm not super knowledgeable, and I'm hoping to gain some more education on it. But from a lane point looking in, as any other citizen does, it looks to me like the density that they're asking for in this case is just not what it is. The statement about half of the property is going to remain natural area, to me just seems foolish, because literally that lower portion against the Yadkin River is totally in floodplain. It's a 100-year floodplain. So to claim that that's what gives us a density credit in order to keep it unused when you can't physically build on the property either just doesn't seem right to most of the locals in the area. If you look at the surrounding areas as concerning density, that's what we'd like to see. It's not that anybody is really against the property being developed into homes. Would we love to see that our agricultural district remains steadfast? Yeah, we would, but growth is inevitable and it's going to happen. But we'd like to see houses and lots and a zoning that is more consistent with the area around us. I live off Peggy Drive, okay? That's one of you spoke about emails earlier. Peggy Drive is a neighborhood called Idols Acres, and it consists of Peggy Drive, Hawkhaven Drive, and Riverbrook Trail. Now, this area is RS30, and my lot personally is just under an acre, okay? And I think the smallest lot in there is like 0.6 of an acre. If you look at Clemens West, where Mayor Rogers is from, if you look at Clemens West, it's actually set up as an RS15, but it more flows with an RS20 because literally like the average lot size is half an acre and then up from there. So you go down the road from us to Salem Glen, once again, RS20. So I feel like the RM5 is a little bit of a push, and it's kind of negatively aspected toward Tanglewood because you get a lot of people that pull up to the back entrance of Tanglewood, and I hear it from everybody. They don't want to walk and travel into Tanglewood and ride their bikes and see townhomes. So we'd really love to see RM5 just not approved, period. You can get a variety of homes and not have townhomes. So we'd like to see some more consistency with the area of Idols Road where we are now, that would flow better and kind of complement the area and be just good for everybody. Traffic concerns, yeah, was a great presentation from Mayor Rogers there. It's just, but yeah, the Idols Road extension by Mr. Garrett got pulled up. And yes, he's right. That is a good scapegoat to get you to Winston-Salem, but it's not practical right now. In my respect, it was a little bit kind of prematurely done. And what I mean by that is that was kind of the easement to take you out of Clemens and get you to Winston a little easier. But in reality, until the Beltway comes in, and I think that's projected to come into 158 around 2029, 2030. It's not a very feasible way, and it's not a way that most goers from this area of Forsyth County take to get to Winston-Salem. So I feel like 4,600 or roughly 4,600 projected trips daily from this neighborhood at full build. 80% of those are going to be taking Middlebrook Drive, and that poses a huge problem for Clemens. And on top of that, we talk about the being catered to elderly, okay? Being catered to elderly, saying it's age restricted or age. Yes, sir. One more second. So if it's not restricted, then that means that anybody can move into it. Now, we already have an influx in population at our schools. It's hard to get into doctor's offices in Clemens, and I feel like without an age restriction, that we are going to pose issues with our schools being overcrowded. We already got kids packed into trailers, and it's something that needs to be addressed that way. So those are pretty much a lot of the concerns. I will say that I do have a petition signed by over 350 people in the Clemens vicinity, some that have not, few that have not lived there, but there is a lot of people who are concerned in opposition to this zoning request, not in the fact that we don't want to see homes, but in the fact that we'd like to see something that complements the area better. I appreciate your time.
You've done some work. Good voice.
Others that would like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Jonathan Dawes. I live at 7680 Riverbrook Trail, Clemens, North Carolina, 27012. Before I start, is it okay for me to go back a couple slides? Because there was actually a picture of the development. I think that would clarify some of what I'm talking about. Am I able to do that? Yeah. All right.
Do you want my slide or do you want the one that they have?
Just the one that shows the entire development.
Okay.
That's perfect.
That work?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I can zoom in if there's a particular area that's.
Can we zoom in kind of like into the bulk
I can
area?
go to that one.
That works. Okay. So basically, I'm the guy who wrote the tree email. So basically, my property, just to kind of give you an example of my perspective here, is this one right here. Essentially, what they are suggesting, my understanding, is that a little below, kind of down in this area, there's going to be a force main station, I don't know what they call it specifically, that basically takes sewage from the development up to the main station over on this side, because the gradient going from the bottom here to the top is uphill, so they have to have a force main in order to get it there. Currently, my understanding is in this area of the development, they're still talking about a 30-foot buffer zone. My concern here is with the force main coming right along our property line, there is a definite, because you can see on two sides of our property, we're going to be actually having them cut down trees and put development there. It's definitely going to be going and grading to some degree because they have to dig in for the force main. I mean, it's not an aqueduct that's going to be underground. On our property, we have a lot of really, really tall trees. We're talking 100-foot plus tall trees. Basically, the area where that development is currently forest, and part of that extends into our yard. Of course, with a 100-foot tall tree, the root system extends quite a bit past 30 feet. So if they start doing all of that right at 30 feet, it's going to basically kill all the trees on our property. We're going to be having to take down, I don't know, a dozen plus 100-foot tall trees, costing us probably tens of thousands of dollars to remove it, so it doesn't either fall onto their development or, crush my house or barn. So that's really my main point of concern. Our neighbor was not able to come today, but he actually has a house right here. That's his house on the map. And basically, he's going to be having this right in his backyard. You look how close that is. I mean, it's essentially, I don't know the exact distance, but I mean, he could probably toss something at his kitchen window and hit the fences of the houses that they're building. So our request was basically, at least in the areas where it's directly bordering residential properties on this side, if they could extend the buffer zone past 30 feet, kind of like they've done on the other side, that would be really helpful for us because it's going to really negatively impact our property values, and just create some major problems for us that are avoidable if we just extend that out a little farther so it doesn't kill all the trees on our property. That's kind of my perspective and the perspective of a lot of us that live in Idles Acres. We would just like to see that extended out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Others would like to speak in opposition.
Good afternoon. My name is Felix Dudley, 7850 Idles Road, Clemens. And I'm not going to try to find my house on this map, but I've got some bullet points here. And more than anything, I'm going to ask questions. The population density is a concern for me, along with the 4,000 plus items of traffic on the streets. You know, I think the developer said he estimated over 4,000 cars or trucks a day. I was thinking maybe it would be more like 1,000, but 1,000 concerns me. I'm concerned about the impact on utilities and county services. What is this going to cost the county long term to manage this facility? Somebody's paying for a lot of sewer development. Somebody's paying for the water line that was extended. I don't know who did all those payments, but a lot of big money. What are we talking about? The tax base of a, I think somebody said about $1 million revenue tax base today on this project. Now, if this project was reduced in volume of the number of buildings on it to some bigger, a little bit bigger houses than what they planned with larger lots, what does that do to the tax value? Does it increase revenue for the county if they're on bigger pieces of property? Is that an issue to be thought about? The quality of life in Clemens is one of the reasons I moved to Clemens. It's a beautiful place to live. I'm an old Alabama boy. I grew up in the woods of Elmore County, Alabama, near Montgomery, and I'm used to open spaces. And that's what I thought I was getting into when I bought on Idles Road with this property just right up the road from me. The water and sewer issues. Water stops right at the end of this property. It doesn't extend on down Idles Road. A lot of people are on wells in this community. What can be done about extending the water lines to people that are on wells that are problematic? Could that be a part of this project? Is a question. We've already talked about traffic. We mentioned about the tax base. I'm trying to be as compact as I can here with my notes and my talks. But anyway, I have concerns about the overall cost to the county and the city of Clemens over the long haul with this project. Maintenance of the roads in and out, going to be a lot of wear and tear on the roads with that many cars and trucks going up and down that Idles Road and on Doc Davis and all the intersections. Can't widen the road, I've been told, because the way the property lines run on the railroad system and on Idles. So it's just going to be I think it's going to be a growing problem with traffic. I'm concerned about the impact it's going to have on the schools, on the medical services, emergency services. How are you going to get an ambulance sent out there real quick if somebody's in desperate need because of all the traffic? How are you going to get fire trucks in and out? It was something about one of the proposals I saw, they're going to build a fire station out there. Is that true? Was it going to be a fire station and maybe a police substation in the plans? If not, how are we going to get help when we need help in that neighborhood? So, and I'm not opposed to the project. I just like to see a less population density. maybe bigger lots, a little bit bigger homes, that might enhance your tax base, as opposed to all these apartments. And it's interesting to me that Dale Webb was interested in the project. That sounds positive to me. But if it's going to be open for anybody to be out there, and some of these are going to be small dwellings, probably relatively low cost, what's it going to do to the neighborhood? What's that going to do? And I got to talk. I'll stop talking. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies. I appreciate your attention.
Good presentation. Did a good job.
Others that would like to speak in opposition? Go ahead. This will be probably our last. We're down to 30 seconds, but you can give your full 30 minutes in 3 minutes, and we'll see where we are. Good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Ron Ellis. I live at 7104 Orchard Path Drive, Clemens. I live in Forsyth County, but have a Clemens address. Along with a lot of other people that live in Forsyth County, I'm a patron of Tanglewood Park. I've been going there for the last 29 years off and on, mainly in that Mallard Trail Road area. And that's the area, of course, that runs up next to the farm, which is part of this proposed development. But anyway, I want to bring up 2 or 3 big important issues that I have. Number one is safety. And that has not been brought up in the planning board meeting, and I didn't hear it this morning. It's kind of alluded to, but when I'm talking about safety, I'm talking about the safety of the joggers, the bikers, the walkers, the other people that use the park and Tanglewood and Idols Road. And that is kind of related to the situation with the traffic. Right now, the traffic on Idols Road is not good. And when I say not good, it's because a lot of people that use that road are speeding on that road. I was going to walk at the park one day, and somebody passed me on Idols Road, and Idols Road is a 2-lane, double-lane road. You're not supposed to pass at all. This person passed me on a curve, and they went around me, and about 2 seconds later, another car came the other way. Almost had a head-on collision right there on Idols Road. So that's the way it is at this point. The speed limit on that road needs to be reduced. With the increase in traffic on that particular area, stretch of road, I think we're going to have major problems. The other thing that was mentioned or kind of alluded to before was about the traffic study that was done on Idols Road and Middlebrook Drive. That study was only part of the picture, part of the situation. The other situation is going up Middlebrook to 158 into I-40 through Clemens. Clemens already has a bad traffic problem or situation, especially in the morning and at night, at rush hour time. And I'm afraid that this particular proposal with the increased people is going to make that a lot worse. The other issue I want to bring up is, and I guess it was kind of alluded to in the presentation, but I hadn't seen anything specifically done, was the environmental situation. That area up there, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but this is the area where, like I said, where I go for a walk, and the farm is on the left going up Mallard Trail. That's a beautiful area, open area, very scenic, really is part of the park. I mean, it blends in with the park very well. And of course, it's used by a lot of people at different times of the year. But not only do you have concerns, obviously, about visually how it looks, the aesthetics of it, but what about the wildlife that live in that particular area? And there's lots of it in that area. So I really haven't seen any kind of an impact assessment or study done per se about that whole area that's being proposed. Couple of last comments. There was a comment made about people that live in this area won't go out in town. In my opinion, that's BS. There's a lot of people that go from that area, from Salem, Glen, and those areas out there into town, into Clemens. They're going up Middlebrook, Idols Road to Middlebrook into Clemens. That's where they shop, that's where they get their food, etc. They don't go straight on the extension. That's if you want to go into Winston-Salem, you can go that way. But a lot of people are going to be coming out that road from the proposed development. And so a lot of people will be using that particular avenue to get back and forth, and they will be doing that. I'm over 55 years old, obviously, and I'd be using that traffic or that way to get up into Clemens quite a bit. We've seen that traffic situation for a long, long time since we've been living there for 29 years. The other thing that kind of was mentioned, I guess, was about the impact, not only on traffic, but also the impact on the environment. And it's a beautiful area. Tanglewood, as you know, is a beautiful park, and I would hate to see that taken away or destroyed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This actually completes our public hearing, and I did mention at the very beginning, if commissioners have any questions for people who have already spoken, this would be a good time to do it since we completed the hearing part for clarification. So if there's somebody like to, I've got a question or two, but if others like to jump in, that would be great. Yes.
I just suggest we have about a 5-minute recess.
All right, that's great. 5 minutes recess, and we'll reconvene, and I'll set my timer for 5 minutes. It won't be 10.
We've enjoyed listening to everybody so far. Turn the meeting over to our Vice Chairman, Don Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks everyone for, excuse me. I turned my mic off. Thanks everyone for your patience in a 5-minute recess. So we're at the point of maybe asking some questions, and maybe I'll go ahead and start, and others can on the board can think about it. But I would like to ask Mayor Rogers if he'd mind coming back a little bit, and I'll wait till it gets here. You don't have to think while you're walking.
You know, you could be on Andy Griffith's show.
Good on my feet.
There you go. I was just going to. I understood your request for sort of a 60-day delay, but I'm curious about sort of what you would hope to accomplish during any kind of period of delay. What you obviously this is related to traffic, and if I heard you correctly, you have engaged the same traffic engineer that worked with the developer and did the Idols Road Middlebrook intersection, and you have very strong concerns about Idols Road and Middlebrook and 158.
Yes, sir.
And you have some data on those. It seems like, it's my impression, if I heard you correctly, you have a fair amount of this data, and I just want to know what may be accomplished during that sort of period of time. If there were a delay, what would get accomplished?
Okay, first off, we're waiting for NCDOT to come with the actual plans for the U-6004 road improvements. We have not seen any plans as of yet.
And
that's scheduled
am I
for
correct, you have a meeting scheduled for that?
Yes, sir, for August 18th.
Okay.
There'll be a couple of council members, myself, and our staff to see what is being proposed. And then there'll be a public hearing held shortly thereafter, so the public will be aware of the plans that DOT has come up with. We have no idea what their plans are. We do not know if they've even included this Riverwalk development in their calculations of almost 5,000 vehicles a day. Salem Glen is having 80 additional homes being built now. What have they taken into account on their design? That's where we want to do this. We welcome the homes, we welcome the development, but we want to do it right the first time. We go back later and ask DOT for additional road or additional improvements. As you know, it can take 5 years, 10 years for it to get on the books. And then if funding goes south again, it could be delayed longer. We just want to make sure that we get everything up front. Our citizens know what we're getting, what we're buying, and that we're supporting the project as far as residential and what have you with this Riverwalk development. That's our concern.
Yes.
Just plain and simple. It's the traffic and make sure that we get it right the first time. And that we give good answers to our citizens. Yes, sir.
Got that. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And while we're speaking of traffic, I do know that we have, I believe, Mr. Fansler from DOT is here. Am I correct? Yes. Dudley told me that. Good. Maybe you'd like to come up and just shed a little light on where you may not be giving Pat Aver's report that he plans on going to the village council with, but maybe you could give us a little update, particularly on whether your plans for that, whatever the proper name of the Louisville Clemens Road with the median, et cetera, is. I'm sure there's a name for that project, and whether or not it's going to account for, your engineers accounting for the anticipated increased traffic, particularly it's likely to arrive at 158 and Middlebrook and Louisville Clemens.
So thank you, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Let me start by saying I'm going to be careful in my comments regarding an NCDOT project because I represent the city of Winston-Salem DOT and our metropolitan planning organization boundary. Okay, and we are not the jurisdiction and the managers of that particular NCDOT project. However, I can provide some comments on some process and what may provide some context for what you're considering. Okay, I do know that with every NCDOT project, they do consider traffic forecasting. So you heard the comment about, okay, are we including growth development as we make these plans?
Sorry, my
That's
fault.
okay. Is that my time?
No.
That was quick.
Let me make sure this is completely off. I've been a little inefficient. Sorry.
But Vice Chairman, as I was saying, the forecasting does go into their project development. Okay, there's a project development phase that does include growth. Okay, and what the projections are that goes into those plans. Now, I will say this on behalf of what I did review. Okay, and that is what the developer provided in their traffic analysis. Okay, there's no secret there that there's a large amount of traffic that a site of this scale will generate. We can't deny that. You've heard the numbers. And so I don't think we're here to combat that. What we have to be careful and what the UDO allows us to do is what we can and can't require of the developer, right? So there's a thing of what we can require the developer to improve, and then what's an underlying maybe Village of Clemens issue. Today there's traffic issues. Today there's issues that you've already heard about, right? That is inconsequential to what's on the table today, but is a part of our everyday NCDOT, City of Winston-Salem job is to mitigate traffic independent of development, but as we're paid for and funded to do traffic mitigation in perpetuity, right? Not contingent on development. So there's traffic issues you've heard, sure. Okay, this development will enhance those. There are some mitigation efforts, turn lanes at Middlebrook, some efforts regarding some of the ingress and egress that the developer's committed to. That's in your packet. But, when we start getting a couple miles away, we start looking at intersections that have so many other tributaries, so many other collectors. What are we doing? Are we studying a development, or are we studying the Village of Clemens? And I think it's important to know where our distinction is and what we're tasked to do. And the spirit of the UDO is to provide a document that we can say the developer, and based on what they're generating, they are providing enough means to mitigate that to what the UDO allows, so to speak. So there's a lot of context there, and we can get into as much detail as you'd like. But from our perspective, we're kind of bound in on what we can require on this frontage, and then the developer's committed to this. And one thing to note, and if I misspeak, I'm happy to be corrected. We understand this is a multi-year build process. The TIA does reference 4 phases. I'm not sure if that's still accurate or not, but it is a multi-year build process. And so we have to understand DOT staff is still going to be around as this. Things are going to change. Things will happen. And we're tasked to continue monitoring this, because what we have presented today to review is just a model, right? Things are going to do differently than what we are projecting. So we have to understand that as this thing is built out, so will traffic. Things in 2030, when this is expected to be, or 2028, when it's expected to be done, are different than 2022. So take that into context. I'm happy to answer any specific questions. I don't mean to be so vague, but this is a challenging site, and a lot of these requests today are, a couple, 3 miles, 2.5 miles away from this site. And so are we talking about a Village of Clemens issue? Are we talking about a site development issue, and what we can legally require of the developer? So in that context, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, maybe let me follow up on the one item. And as I heard the mayor, when he spoke during the hearing, and I don't know if you were here for that, but he actually read from the UDO
Sure.
about intersections within, that are reasonably likely to be affected by the development.
Mm-hmm.
So without a doubt, as currently as Isles Road goes up to where Middlebrook intersects, then traffic is going to go one of 2 ways.
Sure.
They're going to go straight on Idles, or they're going to turn left. They're going to do one or the other. So even if you assume 50-50 split at that intersection, which at this point, it won't be 50-50, but if it were, I'm just assuming that from a random standpoint,
Sure.
that very next intersection down, which is about 1.25 miles at Middlebrook and 158, is going to be impacted.
There's no doubt.
And I did have a chance. Pat Ivey was here 3 weeks ago and spoke to us in a broad sense update on Forsyth projects, with a lot on the bypass. And I did speak with him afterwards. We had a break before we continued, and asked him about, and he said, because that intersection of 158 and Middlebrook is actually included as a part of this Louisville Clemens Road project.
Sure.
And that's what he's going to update the village council on. And he said, yes, our engineer's working on that now. And this is a time that's appropriate to look at the likelihood of some increased traffic at that. And that would be, as I interpreted that's kind of a DOT project, that they're going to look at that as a part of their design.
That's right.
And what they would do is as they terminate the Louisville Clemens Road project, would be right there. So maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I do think that was part of what he was saying, and I think it does extend beyond that single, that may have been what was required, and maybe from a technical standpoint, but it's clearly influencing at least one other intersection pretty substantially from a traffic standpoint. But anyway, I think that part is helpful, and I think that's. Anybody else have a traffic question?
I do.
Mr.
I got
Vance?
one. I don't know if you can answer or the mayor can answer, so let me just throw this out. Is Idle Roads or Meadowlark, are they part of the Powell bill money funds, either one of them? They're both state roads? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions related to traffic?
One question, Mr. Vice Chair. Have you completed your traffic assessment of the area? And what's your conclusion from that, basically?
Thank you, Commissioner Elamine. So our conclusion is, and it's in the report, is this site will generate significant traffic. We've heard that, and it will expect the level of service to decrease. We've required some improvements at Middlebrook and additional turn lanes to help mitigate that. So if you get into the details of what that does to the delay, level of service is a metric on vehicular delay, okay? It significantly improves that. Now, it doesn't go to zero. It'll still be worse than it is today because the amount of traffic. So, but from what we are projecting and what we can require, right? So don't forget, there's what we can understand and then there's what we can require. This developer is providing the means to mitigate their site concerns. Now, that does not mean that at 158 and Idles Road, there is continued concern, or excuse me, 158 and Middlebrook, there's concern in that it will continue to grow as this site develops. That's what we heard about as a part of an NCDOT larger comprehensive effort, and that we have to make sure that this site is included with those forecasting and design efforts. So to summarize, our interpretation of what was presented to us to review is that we will see a delay, and what has been provided and improvements that has been committed to does mitigate that to an acceptable level. Okay, it is not great, but it does provide the means to do what? No, they're providing a southbound right turn lane at Middlebrook and Idles Road.
But at Middlebrook and Stratford are 158.
Yes.
Is that going to be, I heard that was going to be a roundabout.
So I don't know the nuances of that intersection. I'd have to get some direction from Pat on that, but I know that was a conversation. If that's still the direction, I can't speak to that.
Any other questions, Mr. Fansler? Thank you. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate that. And I do have one question for Greg Garrett, if you would come up, particularly. I'll wait till you get up front.
Yes, sir.
Part of the presentation we had during the opposition statements surrounded actually the map that's up on the screen right now with the sewer line on that. I think it's the correct name is the Idles Road, Idles Acres, I believe, that it actually joins, if I saw it, the line right back where I think the sewer line runs at the base there of the property line. And as I understood that request, because it is heavily wooded there, as I recall, and in that area, it looks like you've got buffer land, or not buffer land, but open space where it is on the map. Is that something with those adjacent property owners, that line? Because clearly the sewer line construction at that point will disturb, the force main is going to disturb some of those trees along there. Is there a way, since it looks like that's not, there's maybe slightly, I can't tell in feet by scale, but close to those, is a way to just give that a little more space. So that the sewer main is not perhaps right on that property line. Do you understand my question?
Yeah, yes.
And I don't know that I was just reading between the lines, literally reading on this, where I thought that force main was going to go and what the concern of the adjacent property owners are.
Right, yes. Ideally, I would love to leave that as a natural buffer, but it is tight, as you have noted, especially with the force main that would be coming up through there. By the way, I think it's important because I know we had a case a couple months ago talking about doing more regional planning with infrastructure, particularly, sewer. And so I have been working with CCUC on this project and some major improvements that are slated to be done at Tanglewood Pump Station. And so this, based on the conversations we've had, this force main will have not just what's coming from this project, but will also be carrying other other affluent from neighboring properties. And so those conversations are currently going on. But to answer this question specifically, I am sympathetic to that, to Mr. Ross, I believe his name is, Doss. And however, it is tight. It's very pinched because of that force main. And I can look to Stephen, my site plan designer, and he's confirming it is tight. Is there anything we can do there?
I mean, there may be the possibility, just as further exploration, we'll definitely keep that in mind as we're exploring these other options to see if there's any way to adjust it. But like Greg mentioned, it is very tight in that area. It's just
But
not
that
very
is
much
the
of a-
proposed, where the line would go is basically the property line. The force main would basically be on the property line?
Well, it would be outside of the buffer. You'd have that 30-foot buffer, and then the force main would be up against it.
Right, so, yeah, so, and the buffer itself will require land disturbance too, to get all that stuff put together.
Very likely, potentially.
To do that, so it's a matter of how many, and I imagine I don't know, I'm not gonna speculate, but I think a look at that would be very, I think that's a very legitimate concern to a property owner on the other side, particularly with very old trees and root structures. I mean, so I can, if that could be, and it looks like at most you're looking at, I can't tell with the eyesight, but nothing, but there's a short stretch there with a couple of lots that are there, it looks like. Maybe, I think some attention to that, and maybe some of that would be really important.
We could definitely explore that further, absolutely.
Good. Are there other questions for anyone?
I do. Greg, could you go into more detail about the completion date and the phases?
Yes, ma'am. So we're looking at this, pending approval, obviously. We're looking at a spring of 2023 start date, and that's just the start of the land preparation. And you won't even see houses start coming out of the ground until mid-2024. And then, as was stated by someone else, there is a 4-phase plan to this. And so we currently are projecting a build-out date of all 537 homes in 2030, 2031. And so, it's hard because we get so micro on these plans, and you start to think, 537 homes, instantaneous, and this is a very long build-out,
Good. Other questions for anyone?
I had one question for the mayor. My friend and comrade.
Yes, I remember our days on the TAC.
Listen, just one question about your 60-day request for deferral. Could the study be done before the 60 days were up? Any idea about that?
It can be. The reason 60 days is a normal period that would be asked for a delay, 30 or 60. We'd be willing to do 30 days if that would work with commissioners, just so that we can have a thorough investigation of the project and what DOT proposes with the interchanges. We want to make sure that everything has been accounted for. I know that the DOT uses like a 1.5% increase annually for traffic in areas as a benchmark, just as a guesstimate. When you add in almost 5,000 vehicles from one development, that blows out the 1.5% annual increase. So just that's the reason I'm asking for the delay. Deferral.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We're good, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I was looking around. I've actually, in just listening today, and actually I do have some awareness of the DOT part, a little more detail that I think it would be. I want to first of all compliment Greg Garrett. I think you've done a tremendous job, and I think for all that's heard here would agree that your actual residence being within close proximity is a very kind of important thing because all these things impact you. And I think, and I can also say we've been in this process for 2.5 months of various sites. You have made a lot of adjustments, and I certainly think the Tanglewood accommodations, both with a wall, additional buffer designs, and those have been tremendous. I think we're, for me, anyway, I can only speak for myself, I'm getting close to, this is a good thing. And I guess I would like to think, I've just looked at, I want to be sensitive to your time schedule, and I also know we've been dealing with it. We've had one postponement already. In our current meeting schedule, our next regular meeting is August 25th because we're off a week because there's a statewide meeting for commissioners next Thursday. And I would like to ask that we table, I'd see if there's enough support to table this decision. We've had the hearing until the 25th, which is 3 weeks from today, and hopefully there's already a meeting with DOT and the Clemens folks at the village on the 18th, and hopefully we could all reach a level of comfort. Maybe you could address the issue of what's really possible on the sewer line force main, what kind of that really looks like in feet for the property owners that are adjacent there. And I think if we could have that information on the 25th, at least I think I'd be prepared to vote. So I'll ask and see if there's a second for that.
I'll second that motion.
Got a second from Chairman Plyer. Is there any discussion?
I think you mean postpone rather than table.
I hope so.
Is that right?
Okay, but I like that. I like the motion that we postpone. Would you second that motion?
Second. I will.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I really am not going to support your motion. These folks have done everything this board has asked them to do. They've gone back several times, and I can't think of anything more that they can do in the next 3 weeks. DOT has already said they've done the going to do the road improvements that DOT has suggested. We cannot solve Clemens traffic problems with this development. So I will not support the motion.
Other discussion?
5,000 cars are already traffic problems with this neighborhood. Is going to help something?
Excuse me, sir. You're out of order, but appreciate your comment, though. And I think everybody's been sensitive to that.
These guys are a joke.
That's enough. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor of the postponement until August the 25th, how about holding up your hand? Six, those opposed? I vote 1. So the motion carries to a postponement to the 25th, and the vote was 6-1. And thank all of you for coming. This has been, we've had good, healthy discussions. Thank you.
Any further comments before we break for this meeting and go to the briefing session?
No, we got a little more.
Oh, well, in that case, move forward.
Ready for item 2. So the next item on the agenda is our public hearing for the submission of an application to the North Carolina Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division to apply for and accept, if awarded, a rural building reuse grant to support the expansion of Frank L. Bloom Construction Company's office headquarters in Forsyth County. And we will hear from Kyle Haney to begin that discussion. Thank you.
I'm going to try to get this PowerPoint up real fast one. All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So this item is Frank L. Bloom would be us supporting Frank L. Bloom's application for a building reuse grant from the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Frank L. Bloom is a provider of construction management, design, build, general contracting, and special projects for higher education, healthcare, senior living, K-12 schools, commercial, and other industries. They're based in Winston-Salem, but also have a presence and operations in Greensboro, Raleigh, Asheville, and Charlotte. Founded in 1923, and currently have 218 part-time and full-time employees here in Forsyth County. This project would be them relocating their company headquarters from its current location at 830 East 25th Street to 2601 Pilgrim Court. They would purchase that property and renovate it, still keep a presence at that other facility, but the headquarters would move. They would invest $3.4 million into capital investments and create up to 35 new jobs. This incentive is not, there would be no Forsyth County funds as part of this incentive. This is state funds that would be available through the Department of Commerce for the building reuse program. The local government has to be the pass-through agency and the applicant, so that's where we'd be serving. It is in the form of a forgivable loan where they create the jobs, and that loan is forgiven once they create those jobs. The county would be responsible for repaying those. However, we will have an agreement with a company where they would repay us for that if they did not meet those goals. Happy to take any questions. And I will mention that Mike Lancaster, the CEO and president of Frank L. Bloom, is here.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's good.
I agree, but I do have a question relative to the forgivable loan about the job creations. So the job creations, are those for individuals that are coming into Forsyth County or already here in Forsyth County?
Those jobs will be new jobs created, so they'll hire new people for that. So there's nobody in those positions at this point. They would hire 4 positions that would be located here in Forsyth County.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't clear. So I wanted to know where the employees are coming from. Are they coming from out of town, or are they utilizing the constituents that's already here?
That would be a company. There's no requirement that they hire people who are local.
If the gentleman's here, I would like to hear from him. I mean, does he have an answer?
Yeah. Mike.
Or people need jobs, and I'm just trying
Sure,
to figure
yeah.
things out.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. On a lot of those jobs, they are jobs that we either have currently posted or plan to post. Okay. And so obviously, our preference is to look for local citizens, but I don't know 100% where they will come from, but they will either relocate here or already exist in Forsyth County.
Thank you. I think I heard the perfect word, so thank you so very much for that. Okay, thank you.
That's good. Our clerk, Ashley Sloop, has informed me there are no comments have been received in opposition or in favor. And we will begin the second public hearing. This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, or up to 15 minutes to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Yes. Just give us your name and address, and we have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Laura Lee with Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. Our address is 411 West 4th Street, 27101. It's wonderful to be in front of you today to support Frank L. Bloom Construction's expansion. We are excited to see that they want to continue to have their headquarters in our county and to grow that and to renew that Pilgrim Court space. I also think it's really important to note the legacy of Frank L. Bloom in our community. They will have been in our community for 100 years next year. So it's exciting to be able to support a company that really has made such a commitment to us. So we look forward to your support of this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Good afternoon again. Thank you for allowing us to be here. I would just say that.
Give us your name and
Oh, I'm
address,
sorry.
just for the record.
Yes, Mike Lancaster, Frank L. Bloom Construction, 830 East 25th Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 27105. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. We've been successful in this community for nearly 100 years because of the support of Forsyth County commissioners, and the great community that we live in. So thank you for that support, and I hope that you'll support this. It's a great opportunity for us to continue to expand as a company, continue to grow, and in doing that, use a latent asset, honestly, that's been in our community for a while to revigorate the Pilgrim Court property. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
One question, please, Wayne, before you leave. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay. Now, usually when we get an incentive request, we have some idea of the salary range of potential employees. You have an idea what that range might be for this hire?
We provided it, I think, in the 81 was the average.
81,000.
Average of the salaries.
Any other speakers wishing to speak in favor of this request? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to end the public hearing.
End the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Elamine. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So I can now declare the public hearing closed. We did that. So the third item on our agenda is a resolution adopting a naming policy for Forsyth County facilities. And we have a revised copy of that. We've seen it. What would maybe a brief presentation of just any.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. Was there actually a vote to approve
No,
the last
I
item?
don't know. Thank you. Apologize.
Move approval of
Got a little too
Frank L.
fast there.
Bloom Construction.
Do I hear a motion to approve the petition for Frank L. Bloom's
Approve the
presentation?
petition.
Second.
I think, good, thank you. Motion by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Gordon. Now, we're ready for the resolution. Anybody like to review the resolution for naming policy for Forsyth County facilities? We've basically added a statement regarding a public hearing. That's the only change. Would anybody like more information on that? Everybody got a copy of it in advance? So. Good? All righty. Is there a motion?
So move approval of the proposal.
Like a motion by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Elamine. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All righty. Fourth item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the meeting of July 14th, 2022. Motion by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards for the public session?
No, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Either one. Okay, thank you. All righty. Mr. County Manager, we're ready to continue with the remainder of the agenda.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, and good afternoon, board members, staff, and guests. We do have some business items for consideration this afternoon. We have reviewed these in briefing sessions, hopefully answered all your questions, a little clarification on a couple of them, but we'll dive in. So item 6 is an amendment to the FY 22-23 budget ordinance. It increases revenues and appropriations for the Forsyth County Department of Public Health, Women's and Children's Health Section Nutrition Services Branch funding from North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. It'll appropriate $37,250, just general program expenditures for that program.
Move to approve.
Got a motion by Commissioner McDaniel, second by Chairman Plyler. Any discussion?
Got a question?
Yeah, I got Mr. Manager, is it possible that the Department of Public Health could have COVID tests that they give out in this building? Or is there some reason it can only be in libraries?
We certainly can. We put them in the libraries just because they're central to every community, but we can certainly look into that, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, agenda item 7 is an amendment to the 2020 Motor Vehicles and Mobile Equipment Replacement Capital Projects Ordinance. It'll appropriate $81,700 from insurance proceeds. There were 5 total loss vehicles by the Sheriff's Department. Those are the claims.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Elamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 8 is a sheriff's grant item. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of the necessary documents to accept U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, FY 2020 State Criminal Alien Assistance, or SCAP funds. You got the associated budget ordinance amendment that will appropriate $103,386, and it has to be used for correctional purposes.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Elamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You had a number of items that are contractual in nature. Item 9 is a resolution authorizing a revised budget and an agreement between Forsyth County and the State of North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities and Substance Abuse Services. It accepts funding from behavioral health services. This is part of that state appropriation we were so fortunate to get. It's $12.5 million. There's a 4-year spend, and there's a table in there that actually shows the categories for spending. Deputy Manager Chantel Robinson has worked to basically build that budget and get moving with this program.
Move approval on item 9.
Mr. Assistant Vice Chairman, can we take up 9 through 18 at one time? They're all resolutions dealing with appropriations. Give the board a minute or two to look at them.
Yeah, item 18 is the only one where there was some clarification on.
Through 17.
Yeah.
Move approval on item 9 through 17.
Motion by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel, to approve items 9 through 17. Is there any discussion on items 9 through 17? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
That's right.
Motion carries unanimously.
I think I know where this is
Item
going.
18.
Okay. Item 18 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County Board of Elections and the Resource Company Incorporated. It's for the temporary employment services, one-stop early voting. Tim's been working diligently to try to address concerns around that. So Tim, if you could just come up. So his recommendation is going to be to approve an amended contract with them that I think will serve Board of Elections better and actually has a cost reduction in it. So,
So due to the challenge that we're facing with respect to timing of the upcoming election, I propose to the Board of Commissioners a Plan B where we receive approval for a contract with the resource to get us through this election and then conduct a formal bid process after the election for our temporary staffing needs going forward. I was able to negotiate with the resource for a reduced percentage markup from 38% to 35% to accommodate us for this one-year, one-term contract. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions for Tim?
Yes, Tim, I do have questions, so I'm glad that that happened. Great work. However, whenever we're going through that RFP process again, I just wanted to see the comparisons in terms of what the Resource Center has already provided versus what the other participants or candidates may be doing in terms of their history outcomes. Okay.
Will do.
That's good. I'd like to also commend Tim for his work on this project. Brought these things up last week, and he's been busy. And there's been everything has a little history to it, and so it's all. I think we're about as good a place as we can be at the moment, and that's good. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, second.
By Commissioner Elamine, second by Chairman Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thanks, Tim. Good work.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Did Gordon say something?
I just, I assume the motion was what Tim proposed with the 35% markup. I don't know if you have a figure, an overall figure.
I don't have the raw figure, but I just know, I do know that it's a 38 to a 35.
Okay.
And the change in term from a 3-year to 1 year. So,
Yep.
Those are the two changes.
There.
All right.
Nice going, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Items 19, 20, and 21 are reports, April 2022 and May 2022 Human Resources Report and the June Contribution-Based Benefit Cap Report.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And then the last item was added. You heard from Minor last week. It's a resolution authorizing acceptance of a direct award of supplemental grant funds from the United States Environmental Protection Agency for enhanced monitoring of fine particulate matter of air pollution levels in Forsyth County. You got associated budget ordinance amendment that appropriates $85,000.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kaplan, second by Commissioner Elamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And that is all, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Commissioner Kaplan's motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Don Martin. And by the way, we have a full schedule of briefing as soon as we finish with this meeting, which is adjourned. Now, how soon do you want to go into the